Okay, so just first of all, welcome to session 157. Yes, 157 of Samui Real. We started this group for the first time, people. I think there are about 4 or 5 people here out of this small group. This is a small, cozy group, which we love because we get to have a very interactive time, which is what we really like. We started these talks back in 2021, March 25th. So Robbie at the back in the bar, Robbie and I, he kicked my ass and he said, Pat, you need to start your group. So we started together. And we started with 9 people. I invited 9 people, of which a few are here tonight. And from 9 people, we grew to, in the midst of COVID, we had up to 75 people come to a session. So there are a number of sessions where, yes, people just flocked because they had nothing else to do. People were looking at what was happening on the news. They had a million questions, so people started coming. To date, we've had almost 642, we've had exactly 642 people come to a meeting. And from that, many people have gone back and they still stay in touch sometimes when we do a Zoom call. So when we have a full room, we will put it on Zoom. And we have people in Japan, in Europe, in North America, in Australia, New Zealand, watch via Zoom. So welcome to the new people, and thank you very much for everybody else for supporting the group. So today we're doing something a little different. We were expecting another speaker who unfortunately just recently, upon entering the United States, he has a US passport. He was detained and he has a non-citizen wife and kids, and he was detained. Obviously because he speaks in circles like this, he's very prolific, he's well known, and the FBI, they had questions for him. So that's why I said to him, what a weak excuse for not appearing tonight. He could have done it from the cell, but unfortunately he couldn't make it. So we have Dr. Eamon McKinney right here. Dr. Eamon McKinney is a double PhD holder. He said not to say too much good about him. He's actually was one of the world, and still is one of the world's leading sinologists, which means an expert on China. He was in China in the 1970s. He's been a consultant for the likes of Ford, IBM, Boeing, Microsoft, and many other big companies that we hear about when they want to do business with China. He's also, I'd say, on the Ukrainian hit list, and I believe that he is on a no-fly within the United States. He's on a no-fly list. So that's good for him, good for us. Dr. McKinney will talk to us tonight about what I sent to everybody, which is an update on the current events of 2024. Considering we've only had 6 full months this year, it's been a very, very busy year with lots of events happening. Many people in the world have probably not noticed many of the events that have happened, and they do not understand the significance of it. But tonight, we will hear from Eamon McKinney. A big welcome for Eamon. Thank you, guys.
Listen, any association with academia, let me just say, it embarrasses me now. Okay? That is the logos where they try and tell you that because somebody's got academic qualifications, somehow their opinion is valid. It's not true. So, anyway, look, what Pat was talking about here is we kicked off the year, the schedule in January, where some of what we're going to recap on now. And it was 2024, you know, the most interesting year in human history with a question mark. That was a consensus question that everybody pretty much agreed with. So we're halfway through the year now. How's it going, do you think? Huh? Well, it's keeping up the pace to end up the year more interesting than it started. So we spoke last January about the World Economic Forum and their agenda. They got us eating bugs and closing down farming and all kinds of things. And we looked at their agenda, Agenda 2030, because this is all driven by the climate emergency. So it has such useful goals as gender equality, so obviously more transgender kids, improves the weather. There's actually one point on there that says anything at all about the climate. It's supposed to be a complete global social and economic transformation. And it's a non-starter. It's been ridiculous forever. Each and every one of these goals relies on a country to surrender their sovereignty to some globalist UN organisation. Elements of this will pass in the West, but the rest of the world isn't going for this bullshit. The people around the world now are fighting for their sovereignty, their independence from the empire. They're not about to sell it back so cheaply as this. It's completely dead in the water. The WHO treaty, that's actually a part of Agenda 2030. That again, and I was never actually worried about it because it's ridiculous. Okay, that is dead in the water as well. Because the pandemic treaty, this Agenda 2030, unless the whole world goes for it, it's false on its premise, and they're not. So what we see is the World Economic Forum, see all they're dangling around with the World Health Organization, all this shit they're trying to pass, and they're deluding themselves that anybody's taking it seriously. Fail, fail, fail. Here's the next one. It was going to be the monkeypox, but apparently now it's the bird flu. How many people do you think fall for this bullshit again? Social Darwinism. Okay, and of course we spoke about Ukraine. But it's safe to say that anybody who's been paying attention has realised for some time that the Ukraine project has been a miserable failure in so many different ways. It's just from the military point of view, it's completely exposed just how fragile the American military is. It can no longer boast military dominance. It's also been proven that the good guys, the other side, have hypersonic missiles which render any conflict redundant, should they choose to use them. So the whole Ukraine project has backfired tremendously, and it has separated people along ideological lines, mostly in line with what Putin is doing, because he is following international law and he's explaining everything to anybody that will listen. The attempts to isolate Russia, because like this war is not about the Ukraine, it's about the destruction of Russia. So what we have to understand is that that is finished. That is over. This war should have been over a long time ago. Just I think about 6 weeks ago, Putin made a peace proposal, which most regarded as being over-generous, and it was rejected out of hand by everybody in the West. So everybody is seeing this now. That is over. They're keeping it going as long as they can. Quite for what isn't clear, but the situation is not going to improve. And we covered the Middle East. So everything pretty much changed there on October the 7th. But the situation at the moment is the Arab world, the Muslim world, and collectively most of the rest of the world as well, is appalled by what's going on there. None of the other Middle Eastern countries have actually done much to stop them. And the reason for that is they understand that Israel's only out here is to draw America into a wider Middle Eastern war. That's why they're not reacting. The populations in all these countries is outraged at the lack of action from their governments. But their governments know that Israel is just looking for a pretext to bring America in. It looks like, to all intents and purposes, that this is the end of the Zionist project. Israel is destroyed as an economy. I think 46,000 businesses have been lost or gone out of business since October the 7th. Millions of Israelis have left. They have no economy, and it's divided. They've started now conscript for the first time the religious Jews who've always been exempt, and that's going to create even further problems. But right now Israel is all in. Either it's a wider war or it's the end of the Zionist project for sure, and maybe the end of Israel. So these are still topics, but let's go back to some recent history. This is the recent NATO summit that was held in Washington DC. Biden called it the Big Boys Summit. There they all are standing there. You know what they're all thinking? We're fucked. They all met over there. Biden got up and spoke, and literally you could see all the other leaders going. Look on the far side. That's Orban. That's Orban, and that's Erdogan of Turkey. Turkey doesn't get talked about enough. It's a huge player. Strategically, Istanbul is the most important city in the whole world. It sits astride 3 continents, controls access to the Black Sea. It has the second largest army in NATO, second only to America, and apparently very capable. Erdogan's a strange figure, and he's playing both his cards close to his chest. Nobody can really figure him out. Orban, seeing there with a smile, we'll come back to him. Do you know what they spoke about? NATO, war, increased military spending, how to attack China, how to put a version of NATO in Asia. That's what they speak about. Not one word apiece. Now, there's other blocks beside NATO, as we know. We've looked at the BRICS expansion, and it continues to grow. But more importantly, it now has contrary financial systems that anybody can plug into. It bypasses SWIFT. It's a completely separate banking system. And you'll hear a lot about people getting terrified because they're saying China's bringing in a digital yuan. Yeah, that's true. It's for international trade. BRICS is not imposing a reserve currency on any nation. They all use their own currency. That's the point. All of these advancements that they're making are facilitating cross-border payments between countries. And it's working. This is the alternative banking system. It's already there, it's already working. When we do get a crash of the Western financial system, it's not going to take everybody by surprise. Countries around the world have been preparing for it, and this is the stage, and this is just further accelerating de-dollarization. And the West has got a problem. It can't create any more money. Europe can't create money, the European Central Bank, the countries don't want to pay for it. So they broke. Here's another block. If you like, this is the contrary to NATO. This is the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. It started around 2001. It was China, Russia, and 3 of the stands. And they got together to deal with terrorism and security issues. This is what it's grown into now. So you've got all the stands, India, Iran, China, Russia, and a bunch of others there. Also, Erdogan showed up, fresh from the NATO meeting. And what did they speak about? They spoke about a reinforcement, a recommitment to the UN Charter, a commitment to follow international law. They spoke about trade, about transport corridors, and about creating a completely new security architecture for Central Asia, because they know what's coming now. Destabilisation, colour revolutions, assassinations, we've seen it, they're ready for it. But this is an area, this is cooperation, this is another group, and this carries like half the world's population in these people here, all committed to the same principle and values. We have the same thing going on in Africa with this anti-imperialist movement where they're talking about sovereignty. And all these countries that are really appealing for sovereignty, and they've thrown off the imperial shackles, they're getting plenty of financial and infrastructure help for Russia and China. And here's another really interesting grouping. This is the anti-EU bloc that's forming. Viktor Orban is Mr. Fico, fresh off his assassination. Also includes, I believe, Vučić from Croatia and a couple more. I believe Italy will be joining that as well. This is in complete defiance of the EU and the NATO policies. So what we're seeing is we're seeing all these people come together in opposition to the same thing. Groups appearing everywhere. Now we have a problem. You know, we sit here in our echo chamber and we talk to each other and plug into some like-minded people on the internet, but we have this feeling that like we're the minority, you know? We're the minority. No, we're not the minority. We're part of the global majority, which is 80% of the world's population, that completely rejects NATO, the banking system, the empire. We are in the minority. We are not in the minority, we are in the majority. People in the outside world see things very differently than when you look at it purely through a Western-centric lens. That's what we have to understand. We are not alone. A few other interesting things that happened. There was a general election in Great Britain. That's the new cabinet. Diversity, equity and inclusion. About 50-50 men or women, but no black people. See more diversity at a clan function. Okay, this is significant in a number of ways. We can talk about it afterwards. And the French elections. To say that the situation in France now is volatile. I know people could speak more to that, some of the French people we have here. But essentially they twisted the political system to avoid democratic representation. And all sides appear to be pissed. But for now, at least, Macron is still there. Anybody see this in the news? Interesting. I've heard a lot of different opinions on this. I look forward to hearing some more. So, we've been through quite a few things here. They're all just talking points. That's what they're there for. Now you can talk about something else if you want. Somebody make a statement, voice an opinion, ask a question, and let's all talk. Okay, take it. Tom.
What do you think of Viktor Orban's role in this?
He has some good points. He has some good policies. He's still a cynical criminal as far as I'm concerned, a mafioso. So yeah, I'm not a fan. I looks like you guys are pushing me towards giving a talk about him.
I'm sure that will be appreciated by everyone.
Because he is flying high now. He is chairing the EU for this 6 months and traveling all over the place, building his image and building his ego. He has some good points, of course. But the situation is a lot more complicated than that. That's for now, before I talk about him.
What do we need to focus on as a group and a community, and what changes can we make to make a difference?
I think start with whatever makes you happy, be happy, you know, because the man doesn't want us to be happy and have fun. So that's a start. There's a lot of positives. I mean, everything we spoke about there, it looks gloomy, but it isn't. It's a win for the good guys, and it's a defeat for the people that wish us ill. The world is headed in the right direction. You know, I think it was Napoleon said that there was something stronger than all the armies in the world. and that is an idea whose time has come. Stay positive. It might be a rocky few years in the West, but the rest of the world will recover just fine without the empire and its usury and debt slavery. The rest of the world will recover fine, you know. Doesn't look to me as if the West has a plan B, so that concerns me. But you know, what can we do here? You know, get together, tell the truth, understand that we are in the majority.
Eamon, what do you think
Oh.
about
Sorry.
Klaus Schwab stepping back? Did he quit? Did he get fired, or what kind of?
Sorry,
Did he
guys.
resign, Klaus Schwab?
Yeah.
Oh, he's stepping down. Yeah, I'm not sure they got lined up here, but quite honestly, I think that whole thing is a joke. I think the WEF and Klaus Schwab and the rest of them wankers that he has up there, I think they're a joke. Okay, I think Agenda 2030 is a joke. I mean, what kind of disease mind comes up with something like Agenda 2030 and thinks that the world's going to fall for it? They are. These are the worst people, and you know, it's not like they're evil geniuses. They're just evil fucking morons. Everything they're doing, they fuck up. You shouldn't be worried about it. They haven't got one thing right. Not one. We're winning. You know, we're on the right side. On the side that most of the people in the world just want to live like decent human beings. All this you're seeing going on now is a sideshow. This is like pre-able to a bigger rate. Here, listen, I think Forrest will pop first. What about this Trump thing? Does anybody think that was staged? Yeah, go on. Who thinks it was staged?
Staged by who? Staged by who?
Who staged it? Huh?
Not by Trump. You're saying Trump staged it?
Oh, come on, no. If that was staged, I promise you, Trump didn't have anything to do with it. Try talking this guy into standing still while a high school kid takes a shot at his head from 150 yards away. That's a tough sell. And Trump, I mean, he didn't need it. You know, it's given him a boost, there's no doubt about it, you know what I mean? But I can't see that he was in on it. I think they may be trying to kill him. I mean, like, the Secret Service, it reminded me of the Kennedy assassination. If you watch the way they were being directed around before the shot, and go and look at Kennedy and the way they were pushing the Secret Service agents away, I mean, I think it's well that story, but I mean, it didn't look too perfect. But, you know, it might be some sort of setup, but I can't believe Trump's going to be standing still for that.
Right, Eamon.
Yeah, Pete.
As always, I'd love to say it was a beautiful speech and a talk and everything else, but I wasn't here. So I have to ask, in regard to the assassination attempt, you may have covered it earlier, but was it 1, 2, or 3 shooters?
Yeah,
Because there's people being picked off in the back of the crowd as there's puffs of smoke coming out of the water tower, which is a completely wrong direction.
Yeah.
Well,
Listen, Pete, I'll tell you what, like I said, I think the thing stinks, and we don't know. But the idea that Trump would stand still for a fucking sniper, to me, is ridiculous. And Trump knows, all right, that he's not always surrounded by friends. He wouldn't get away with something like that. You know, there's too many people there. I mean, he wouldn't get away with it. Yeah, the Sandy Hook and that sort of thing, but they were covered up by the state. They'd be all over it. So, but yeah, I mean, multiple shooters, very possibly. And apparently the guy got off 5 shots. I mean, how does that happen? Yeah. Yeah, I don't know much about guns, but it seems...
Has to be featured.
It was a real person shot behind
Yeah, apparently 3 people got hit and 1's dead. That's what I heard.
Look at where the fireman get hit, and look where he died. It was the back of the bleachers. Trump was there, the back of the bleachers was there, and the other lassie get hit there. There has to be at least 2, if not 3 shooters.
It's not a question, it's just a statement. Like, you watched Trump when he was running before and he played his game perfect. That the other day was not Trump. Everything was all over the fucking shop. And you're telling me someone who's so articulate on the way he acted through all this bullshit, and then he goes and puts himself in that situation. It just didn't make sense. Instantly when I watched it, I went, there's fucking something wrong with it. Like, within the first 10 seconds I saw it in an English pub. I said, there's something wrong with this. It doesn't make sense. It's not in his character of how he always has his ducks in the road, knows who's good in his party, who's bad. He set all those people up that were bad in his party in the past. And you're telling me he doesn't know who's going to protect him and who isn't? That's just what... That was sort of...
That's a different question though. I mean, he was naive about some of the people he surrounded himself with, and he's going to have the same problem again. My point is, if the guy was losing or it was like tired and he had some motivation to do it, yeah, alright, that's plausible. He don't need it. He could go and he could go and play golf until the election. He's won. That's ridiculous. That to me is like incomprehensible. And yeah, look, they cover all sorts of stuff up. The Kennedy assassination, that was the state in hand with all the agencies and the media and all that sort of thing. He's not going to have that. If he did try to pull something like that, he wouldn't get away with it for 30 seconds, you know, because half the people still hate him. Yeah, I mean...
I'm just saying...
I know it looked too perfect. It looked too perfect.
Okay, got Terence. I'll just share this. I was jolted awake on Saturday night, and immediately looked at my phone. The first thing I saw was on YouTube the Trump rally, which I wouldn't normally watch. And I pressed play, and it was live, him being carried off stage. So I don't know if that was a premonition or a coincidence or a collective unconscious, but that freaked me out that I just had to wake up at that point in time. But anyway, I think this is just a continuation of the ongoing coup since 2016, from Russiagate. The FBI, the CIA, the deep state has been out to destroy him. They've tried everything to get rid of him. All the indictments, January 6th, Russiagate. COVID was also part of this plot. This one's failed, so now I think they're more desperate than ever now. We're going to be looking at more assassinations, more attempts to get rid of him. There'll be some other plot, unknown, whether it's a world war. The other interesting thing that happened, I think, is that Biden said that the only way he'll leave the race is if it's a medical reason. So he knows that Trump, it was an inside job to get Trump, and they know that they'll get rid of Biden in the same way. And go, don't kill me, just give me a medical reason to get out. So I think we can expect that to come. I think no matter what happens, Trump will never get inaugurated. So something will happen, whether there won't be elections, a Democrat will be inserted, Big Mike, whatever it's going to be. I can't see Trump being inaugurated because they can't allow it to happen because they're all going to go to jail for treason. So there's no way the people in power will ever allow it to happen. There are no white hats about to arrest everyone and reinstate Trump. They don't exist. So that's what I think is going to happen.
This is a question not to Eamon, but to the group. Of course, it's also to Eamon, but one of the things that we've been looking at over the course of this year, one of the things that we've been kind of half expecting is a financial crash. And I've got to say that what we're seeing at the moment is a quickening in the pace of events. I'd like to ask, a simple question. Put your hands up if you knew that gold hit an all-time high today.
Against the US dollar only.
Possibly not only, but
Only.
Hold that.
okay. Yeah, it may be.
No, that's correct. I'm factually correct.
I think also you can use the tether as well, probably, but they're splitting hairs. But yes, I guess the point that Pete is making there is that we should not measure things in the US dollar, and that's a fantastic way of thinking about things. You should stop thinking about things in terms of the value in the US dollar and think about things in terms of something much more tangible, such as gold or silver. Eamon, would you agree with that statement?
Yeah, well, I mean, China have been stocking up on commodities of all manner for at least the last 6 or 7 years. And Janet Yellen, when she was over in China, she wanted to buy 900 billion in bonds, and they sent her on her way and bought gold. So, no, commodities, things of real value now. And you'll always see that when you see fiat currency on its last legs. So yeah, but Alex Payne has been saying that forever, you know, commodity investing. Makes all the sense in the world to me.
Well, one was more of a comment. One of the best comments I heard about the Trump assassination was that normally the Secret Services always cover roofs. So one, why wasn't that roof covered? And secondly, how did that guy know to pick the only roof that he was able to get on without it being premeditated in some way? And if somebody can answer that clearly, then they can convince me that there wasn't a plan. Yeah, there you go.
I wrote that after 8 years in the White House, he saw so many things on TV that weren't real that he's not quite sure that we ever went to the moon. That's how much he doubted what he, who's supposed to have all the information, he knew that what was being faked on television, and I've got a feeling that's to do with satellite technology and what's going on in space and why he couldn't get information. So he knows there's so much fakery going on TV that the way he represented that is that, which is true, that he questioned whether we even went to the moon, because the only reason we knew that is because it was on TV. But what he was saying it indirectly. He knows a lot of the stuff he saw on TV was fake.
Sorry, I didn't get that.
The question was, why aren't England helping with Burma being a colony of the UK?
Well, I don't think it's been a colony in the UK for quite some time, has it? but what, I think the UK's probably got enough on its hands. Doesn't have that kind of reach in Southeast Asia anymore. I mean, MI6 and CIA are joined at the hip, but again, that takes us into the area about who's behind who, you know? And I really don't know. That's a short answer, Greg.
Anybody else? Hey. Hang on. Sorry.
Assassination. Hello. I just read literally just now that apparently the shooter bought 50 rounds of ammunition before he set off on his escapade, so he must have not had a lot of confidence in his own ability, I'd imagine.
The shooter apparently bought 50 rounds of ammunition, which does seem like overkill for somebody who's looking for one shot for an assassination attempt.
You wouldn't want to run out. You wouldn't want to run out.
Anybody else? Roll up. Okay, I'm going to take Pat's roles in his... Where's Pat gone? I'll do the host. Thank you, everybody, for coming along tonight, and thank you very much for Eamon for his brilliant presentation. Big round of applause. Okay, thank you. Everybody mingle.